Yeah, it's a great big long thing. Okay, here, let's go. All right, it is Monday, June 10th, 2019. I'd like to call the Charles City Community School District Board of Education regular meeting to order with roll call vote, please. Terry?
Maycumber?
Here.
Walker?
Here.
Dyke?
Here.
Brine? Here. Mack?
Here.
Reading of the district missions, vision statement, and core values by Director Mack.
Our mission is to engage, inspire, and empower students and staff in order to maximize learning. Our district core values are best for all kids, family, committed leaders, passionate, invitation.
Thank you. Approval of agenda. Are there any revisions or changes?
There are none.
I'll ask for a motion to approve, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries 5-0. At this time, I'd like to welcome any visitors and ask them to please refer to the agenda in regards to any public comment. And particularly, I want to note the stepping to the microphone and speaking your name. This time, if there's any public comment. Nobody ran through the doors. Okay, here we go. Agenda item number 5, comment by board members and superintendent.
I'll start with Board Superintendent Goal 1, professional learning. Just excited about some of the professional learning that we'll have across the summer for our district. So, for example, we're doing Fierce Conversations, which is a conversation model, how to have difficult conversations at times for administrators and our coaches. So we're excited about that. We're doing Lucy Calkins literacy training that's coming in July for many of our staff for around literacy and writing and reading. We have strategic planning retreats happening right now. We're in 4 days of strategic planning, instructional retreat planning with the administration and the instructional coaches. We actually have 2 days of equity training as well. We're learning more about cultural competency and social justice and equity. And then we'll also have a strategic strat-op planning retreat, action planning next week with some of the leadership. And we're also hosting Love and Logic, which is a behavior model training that'll be for much of our staff here in August. So there's all kinds of individual PD happening among staff as well. Board Superintendent Goal number 2, culture and climate. Just wanted to give a shout out to everybody for finishing the year strong. Sometimes the year gets long, and that's always a challenge, but I was really impressed. We had, for the most part, real even behavior for most of our kids and adults, and so that was a positive thing. And we had a lot of celebrations at the end. We were really excited about that. A lot of cool things happened with kids throughout. And, in the future, our campus administrators will be coming through, rotating through and sharing some of the culture and climate data from their surveys that they administered, and also talk about what the team leader system has been doing to really systemically approach culture and climate, improving the organizational health. So we'll be starting that here after we get some of that data processed here later in June. And then finally, we have a big one, Board Superintendent Goal number 3, facilities and infrastructure. As many people know, we are still actively seeking donations toward our new athletic fields for the baseball, softball field. There's several grants out on the table we're waiting word on, and we actually have a couple labor donations that we'll be sharing that aren't quite for public consumption yet, but we have one that's absolutely for public, and it's a big one. We received word on Thursday that Diane Kirkham-Johnson, who is a proud Charles City alum, but is one of the daughters of the family, the Kirkham family that owns Musco Sports Lighting in Oskaloosa, has decided to donate sports lighting for the new baseball, softball field. It is a $400,000 donation. It will include the equipment and installation. It will be state-of-the-art LED lighting. And I got word that this is not their base model stuff, it's their best stuff. It's going to do a lot of cool things, but they will come up and install it as well. We've been in conversations with them. Just want to thank Kurt Herbrick-Schmeier. He really facilitated much of this. It was awesome. He had some personal connections, and we trekked down, Kurt and I and a team of actually our performing arts staff, because there's a beautiful auditorium in Oskaloosa that we actually toured as well. But we had a great conversation. Diane Kirkham-Johnson is just a wonderful, wonderful person, and gave us a call and said they're willing to do this and benefit of the community. So just wanted to have that as a huge celebration. So that's what's going on in the school district.
Wow, how do you follow that one up? Good luck, board members.
I really enjoyed the email I got today. It sounds like we have some free lunch programs that are starting up for our school this week, so that's a great thing that we can offer the community for those who need it. So I don't know if that beats the sports complex, but it is equally important for those who need.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 6, committee reports. We'll start with facilities.
We met last Friday and we meet again next week, I believe. So just kind of starting to look through some of the different things with what Jerry's got going on in projects and that, and we hadn't met for a while, so, but we're going to meet again next week, and then after that, we'll probably have a little bit more to share out and go from there.
Excellent. Thank you. Moving down the list, policy. Missy?
Yep, and we met, I think, last week, and basically just a lot of proposed changes with wording within the policies, just kind of cleaning things up a little bit. And I think there's one agenda item dealing with that tonight.
Excellent, thank you. Any job shadowing reports? Right, moving on to agenda item number 7, the rant presentation. Scotty, welcome.
Thank you. My name is Scotty Hagensick, and I am one of the school counselors for the Charles City Community School District. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about RAMP, especially with Lincoln Elementary. As a school counseling department, we have spent a lot of time working together as a team and collaborating, focused on finding a way to use counseling services to meet the goals and outcomes for all students, especially focused around the district's mission and vision. And as a school counseling department, our vision statement focuses on the outcomes that we have for all students to achieve high levels of success from 5 to 15 years down the road. And through that vision, we seek to provide a counseling program that is comprehensive in nature and that is focused on equity and access for all students. And the ways in which we do that are, see if I can get this to work. There we go. By providing a data-driven counseling program with classroom lessons, small groups, and individual supports that focus on the academic, social, emotional, and college and career needs of all of our students. I skipped one. So a little bit about school counselors is our role is to serve as leaders and advocates to create and support systemic change for students. And school counselors are employed at all levels of students' K-12 education. And our focus is to help all students achieve success academically in the classroom, building relationships with other students and adults, and to find the path that best fits them after they graduate from Charles City, whether they choose to join the military, enter the workforce, or obtain post-secondary education. We provide direct student services to students, and this model shows a little bit more about how we provide a core curriculum that utilizes standards similar to what teachers use. And these standards are mindsets and behaviors that focus on data-driven outcomes for students to help us measure success as they continue working through their educational careers. We also provide small group activities, individual student planning, and responsive needs as things pop up during the school year and as crises might pop up or more immediate assistance. So some of those supports might look like helping students and families seek mental health opportunities and services, and providing crisis response and short-term solutions for students who may be in need. Okay, I'm not done. So today I wanted to spend a little bit more time talking about the RAMP process. And RAMP stands for a Recognized ASCA Model Program. And ASCA is the National School Counseling Governing Body. And it takes 3 to 5 years to implement a RAMP program. And that involves developing a comprehensive program, starting at the foundation with a mission and vision, developing student supports, and then being accountable to stakeholders by sharing the data, making sure our scope and sequence is aligned across the buildings. And this is a building-specific program that allows school counselors to evaluate their program and discover areas for improvement and to enhance our program. So by applying for Lincoln, this is a way to help ensure that the school counseling program is of the highest quality it can be. Oops, sorry. Okay. Part of applying for RAMP involves setting 3 strategic goals for students, and the strategic goals for Lincoln are based off of some of the goals and outcomes for the whole district. So over the past year, Lincoln Elementary has focused on providing students with positive attendance interventions and looking at the data for how many students were missing 9 or more days of school from year to year, and then helping provide support to those students so that they are at school 95% or more. So I worked on targeting both 3rd and 4th grade over the last 2 or 3 years to help reduce the number of students who have 9 or more absences. Okay. The second goal focused on academics and assisting, providing academic support for students pertaining to their FAST goals and their reading proficiencies, and helping more students read at a proficient level. And so we were looking to see more of our students move from 66% to 76% proficient in 3rd grade. And the goal we worked towards was moving from 61% proficient in 4th grade to 71%, which a 10% growth is very ambitious over 1 year. And then finally, we worked together at Lincoln School to reduce the number of behavior referrals and helping keep kids in the classroom more so that their access to high quality education is greater and they're being removed from the classroom less often. And some of the ways that those goals were targeted were through intentional classroom lessons focused to 100% of the students. About 20% of students receive small group interventions, and then about 5% receive more individual supports. So this graph shows a little bit of the year-to-year comparison for attendance data as the counseling department has worked to reduce the number of absences among 3rd grade students. So over the past year, we have seen our students as they left 2nd grade, 68% of them were missing 8 or less days. And this past year, that has bumped to 80%. So we've seen a 12% increase with our students missing less school. And in 4th grade, we have a little bit more data because they've been in the building another year. 2 years ago, 67% of our students were missing 8 or less days. Last year we were at 79%, and this year we were at 73%, which is not where I'd like it to be, but I think it gives us continued data to help us provide supports for the students. But one positive we noticed was still seeing the number of tardies decrease and trying to think about better ways to support the needs of our students and their families. So attendance is a continued goal. And this graph shows what Lincoln Elementary has looked like as a building overall over the past 3 years. So again, you can see that almost 80% of our students are there and missing 8 or less days. So we're continuing to work together as a team to help more students be at school. This graph shows some of our behavior data over the past 2 years, and the red box highlights the goal area that we were looking at. The top line shows last year that 70% of our students had 0 or 1 office referrals, and this past year we were at 80%. So achieving a 10% improvement and keeping more students in the classroom and helping them with positive behavior choices. And then the last group, or the last goal, allowed me to work with an instructional coach and the teachers this year to focus on the academic needs of our students, specifically with reading proficiency. We selected 20 students from 3rd and 4th grade who were not yet proficient on their FAST assessments, and then provided a small group enrichment opportunity for them where they were able to read in a small group setting and receive social emotional lessons based on book topics. So students were able to read over 100 additional minutes and get to experience a small group activity talking about social emotional skills. And at the end of that group, so none of the students prior to starting the group were proficient yet, but at the end of the group we had 10 out of the 20 students proficient and were at their reading goal for the year. And 66% of our 3rd graders exceeded expected growth, which means that we expect them to read about 1 word per week as they progress through the year. And the students in this group were reading about 12 words in 6 weeks. So they were on average reading double what we would expect in a typical classroom setting. And fourth graders, 50% of them exceeded their expected growth too, which shows a lot about how collaboration can help close the gaps for students and speak to some of the equity issues that we have more students working towards their goals and helping them get to some of those achievements. The ASCA mindsets and behaviors are the standards that guide our work. And this is one of the documents that I handed out showing how school counselors target these standards similar to the ways that teachers do. These standards give us a purpose and help us measure objectively whether students are meeting these standards with our work. And so this is just a snapshot of some of the ways that students receive supports. And some of our students are receiving them directly in the classroom, which is the CC, the core curriculum piece. So 100% of students get those objectives and standards in their classroom. And this planning tool helps us develop a scope and sequence and ensure that our students are getting a well-rounded counseling program throughout their whole education. The RAMP elements that are included there's 12 artifacts where I will write narratives about each of these artifacts and then include all of the documentation and data. And that documentation will then be sent to ASCA in Virginia, where a RAMP board will look through all of the artifacts, and then there's a rubric for each piece in which we'll receive points. And currently there are 7 schools in Iowa that have the RAMP designation. So it's a very ambitious program to look for and they look through each of these program elements to ensure that the counseling program is of the highest quality and meets the needs of all students. A little bit more about the application process is each of the narratives is about 750 words. The data is tracked for 1 full academic year, which is what I've been doing since August of last year. And then it includes lesson plans, all the scope and sequence documents, and then a detailed reflection of all the results reports. And then it will be submitted in October, and then the goal is to receive at least 54 out of 60 points on the application to receive the RAMP designation. And there are 7 schools in Iowa and then about 70 across the nation that have earned this distinction. Are there any questions? That's a lot of information.
How long has this program been going on? I mean, with the 7 schools in Iowa, how long have they been a part of this?
That's a good question. You can apply every 5 years. Your designation is good for 5 years, and then if schools seek to reapply, they can, but it's on a building by building basis. So they currently don't accept whole district applications, just one specific building at a time. I'm not sure how long RAMP has been around, though. I'd have to look that up.
Okay.
In regard to the attendance, when you say a student missing 10 days or less, how do you consider the absences? If I have a student, say, leave to go on a trip for 14 days, are they included in that percentage, or is there an exception for students that may be out learning on a family vacation to Europe, or is there not?
That's a great question. We consider all of those factors when we're working with a family, because as we make individual contacts with families over the phone or in person, we want to use the most accurate information that we have. And we have some really great people at Lincoln, especially Janine in the office, who often knows answers to those questions, that she can help us have the best conversations with families. And we always want to respect families and their decisions, but we also want to find a way to help kids be at school as much as possible. And so when we do go through and provide interventions, we look at which students have unexcused absences, which ones have excused absences, and then try to prioritize as much as we can and try to fill needs as appropriately as we can too, because I think attendance is all about building connections with the families and working together as a team. So we look at the whole picture, but as we get more into individual cases, that information certainly helps us decide what approach to take.
But those numbers still do affect they do, and which
They
is
do.
too bad.
And that's what we want parents to know too, is we have all the students set a goal at the beginning of the year at parent-teacher back-to-school conferences, and we talk with them just as much as we can about trying to schedule trips during the summer, trying to schedule doctor's appointments after school, because even those excused absences do add up to time out of the classroom.
But sometimes there can be a lot learned.
Yes,
outside the
absolutely,
classroom.
yes.
Yes, yeah,
Mhm.
there's a lot of opportunity there. And just remind me again what the FAST stands for, the FAST.
Formative Assessment System for Teachers. So
Thank you. First I said fast reading, and it's like fast reading. Okay, thank you.
So it measures a student's fluency and how many words they're able to accurately read in a minute.
Thank you. Any additional questions from Scotty?
Good information.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure to come back and report to
Yeah.
us how the application results.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 8, set the date and time for a public hearing on the flexibility resolution. This information was in our packet. Is there any discussion before we go to a motion?
Motion to set the public hearing concerning the use of flexibility funds for Monday, June 24th, 2019 at 6:15 PM in the Charles City Middle School 7th grade learning studio.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to set the public hearing concerning the use of flexibility funds for Monday, June 24th, 2019 at 6:15 PM in the Charles City Middle School 7th grade learning studio. Is there any other discussion or questions? Terry, does this stem from the legislative changes that allow us local priority to move,
Right.
local authority, let me state that right, local authority to move monies around as opposed to just keeping them locked into categories?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
So we can move from categories to flexibility funds or any general fund use, but when you use it, you have to, the board has to approve that use.
And understand that it's a one-time spending allowance, it isn't an ongoing.
Yeah, because once categorical funds are gone, I mean, it's not a continuing source of revenue.
Thank you. Any other discussion, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries 5-0. Agenda item number 9, set the date and time for a public hearing on the sale of real estate.
Move to set the public hearing concerning the sale of the North Grand Building for Monday, June 24th, 2019 at 6:15 PM in the Charles City Middle School 7th grade learning studio.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to set the public hearing concerning the sale of the North Grand Building for Monday, June 24th, 2019 at 6:15 PM in the Charles City Middle School 7th grade learning studio. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries 5-0. Agenda item number 10, first reading of policy series 100, 200, and 300. Here again, these were, I believe, in the packet. Missy and I reviewed them. Wording changes primarily. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the first reading of Series 100, 200, and 300 board policies with changes, and to approve the review of policies with no changes as recommended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the first reading of Series 100, 200, and 300 board policies with changes, to approve the review of policies with no changes as recommended. Any other additional discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries 5-0. Agenda item number 11, first reading of miscellaneous policy changes. Policy series 400 through 900. Again, we went by ISAB templates and the legislative changes.
Motion to approve the first reading of other miscellaneous policy changes as recommended.
I'll second.
I have a motion to approve the first and a second to approve the first reading of other miscellaneous policy changes as recommended. Any additional discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries 5-0. At the board table. Superintendent Fisher will lead us in a at the board table study on coherence.
So this is exciting. Harry wrote some new at the board table, so they're worth 5 points. And there's a series of 4 of them, so we'll sprinkle them throughout before October so we can get the points. They're a little different. They're interactive, so I don't get to do much, actually. I just keep clicking, and they have these delightful people talk to you, but then there's some discussions at the end. A few of us went up to Mason City, so some of it's kind of a recap from what we did in Mason City around Michael Fullen's Coherence. Coherence being the fancy word for how does everything align? How does everything make sense to our mission, our vision and mission? And I'm excited because this really does fall with what we're doing in terms of what we're doing with the Next 20 and what we're doing with our strat op in terms of action planning and really figuring out, you know, the words I use are tight and lean towards the vision and mission and core values. So we'll see if the speaker works and we'll get ready to go. I was supposed to talk longer while he got this set up, but he didn't tell me.
Have you all checked your board
The right
points?
drivers.
Go on
What
online.
is the work of the board? An at the board table discussion for the whole board.
No.
Participation
You went to
earns
convention.
5 better boardsmanship points.
But you went
When
to
you're
convention.
ready, click next on the bottom right of the screen to continue.
It can't be 0. No, it can't be, because you get points for going to.
Welcome to a discussion of Michael Fullen and Joanne Quinn's book, Coherence, The Right Drivers for Schools, Districts, and Systems. The book Coherence discusses 4 right drivers to achieve school system excellence. This first module introduces the Coherence framework and will help you explore the first right driver, focusing direction at a high level. Subsequent modules will cover the other 3 right drivers discussed in the Coherence framework. This discussion module is designed to be interactive. As a governance team, you will discuss guiding questions and explore implications for board action. You'll also check your understanding by answering true-false questions and apply your learning through an engaging scenario. Click on the Coherence book icon when it appears to read quotes and extend your learning.
What is coherence? The authors in Coherence state that system change can happen within reasonably short timelines, but it requires system coherence. To be coherent is to be united around and acting to achieve a common purpose. The common purpose of ensuring deep learning for all children, regardless of their circumstances. Coherence means people across the entire district sharing a collective commitment and focus on the district's identified student learning priorities and strategies for action. It must be shared by all and be evident throughout the system, and it must be evident at the board table. How does a district achieve coherence? The authors summarize research that describes how schools can achieve remarkable success. They identified the 4 right drivers in action for this kind of coherence. All 4 are relevant to the work of the board. Focus and direction for capacity building, developing a common purpose, cultivating collaborative cultures where all share in the common purpose and are united in working together for that purpose, deepening learning, ensuring all children are learning at high levels, and securing accountability by providing policy and plans that ensure there is accountability for achieving the shared purpose. Let's explore the first right driver, focusing direction. There are 4 main components of focusing direction. Purpose-driven, having a shared moral purpose. Goals that impact, identifying a small number of ambitious goals and staying with them. Clarity of strategy, getting clear on the actions you are taking and building staff capacity around those actions. Change leadership, helping people through the change process to achieve greater coherence. While much of this work happens inside the system, your board does have a critical governance role to be a catalyst and ensure your district is focusing direction to achieve great results for students. For today's discussion, we'll be focusing on two aspects of the right driver: focusing direction, purpose-driven, and change leadership. Let's explore those two concepts now and implications for your role as a governance team.
Let's explore the first component of focusing direction, being purpose-driven, having a shared moral purpose and belief in deep learning for every child.
To be purpose-driven means getting clear about what you believe in and want for all students. In Coherence, Fullen and Quinn say, leaders need the ability to develop a shared moral purpose and meaning, as well as a pathway for attaining that purpose. The moral imperative focuses on deep learning, on high expectations for all children, regardless of background or circumstance.
Let's listen to Michael Fullen talking about the moral imperative of closing the achievement gap and the related implications for your work as a board superintendent team.
We have been working on the moral imperative, I guess, for the last 15 years. And succinctly, it's that commitment to raise the bar and close the gap of learning for all students in your jurisdiction. So it really is focused on real commitment to get results. So that's one thing, but what has become problematic is it's easy to endorse the moral imperative as opposed to making it happen. And so that's why we need the board and the superintendent working together. And to make it happen is not just endorsing the statement, it's getting the action. So what we want to see is board members not only recognizing the moral imperative, but seeing it in action. And when they see it in action, they really see that what they're doing is producing results. We want them hooked on the experience that students are having. So you have to move beyond the statement into the action, and this is where interaction on board and superintendent is very crucial during the initial stages of pursuing the moral imperative.
Now is time for discussion. Let's consider how your board might demonstrate your team's commitment to the moral imperative. As a team, take a few moments and spend time discussing two questions. Number one, to inspire action, what are one or two steps your board might take that would help your board team develop a shared moral purpose and meaning? Number two, at the governance level, how might your board team see the moral imperative in action in order to see the results and help celebrate success? When ready, click on the orange button to hear thoughts from IASB.
Reciting the mission statement at the beginning of each one of the board meetings, I would say is one way that we publicly state.
Adopting board goals, official board goals and different things for, like this, for instance, continuing education to make sure that we're doing the best job that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
The workshop after we hired you, and Harry was here, I think it was Harry, to review superintendent evaluation when we developed your goals as superintendent to move the district forward. Those conversations, and those conversations continue on, a yearly basis, multiple times throughout the year as to what is the direction of the district and where do we want to see it go and what do we want to see you as superintendent and employees, how do we get to those goals?
You guys covered all the top points.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I almost think even our superintendent evaluation could fall into that too, because we do at that time come up with a district goal and we charge the superintendent with following through with that. The second at the governance, how might we, your board team, see the moral imperative in action in order to see this? I think having the presentations like we do in our meetings too helps us celebrate the success and keep us informed.
Yep.
The first action your board might take is the most important. Discuss the moral imperative at your board table and become united around your beliefs as a board. Write and share a public statement that expresses your board's belief that all children can learn well and that you believe your school community can make it happen. The board's belief in the efficacy of the system is important. Review and revise your existing mission and vision statement to ensure that they embody your board's beliefs. Does your mission clearly identify the belief in all children learning to high levels regardless of circumstance? Does the vision clearly portray what this would look like and the importance of getting there? Renew your board's commitment to these guiding statements. As a board, learn together about the kinds of teaching and learning experiences that get to deep learning. Find out what is possible. Invite teachers and students to the board table to share stories of how these experiences are making a difference. Get clear about the biggest learning needs in the district. Together with staff leadership, set a few ambitious goals and relentlessly pursue them. Perhaps problem solving, effective writing. As a board team, get clear about your district's highest priority. Establish what it is your board won't back away from and stay the course.
Let's explore a second element of the right driver focusing direction, change leadership, helping people through the change process to achieve greater coherence.
Fullen and Quinn's research showed consistent behaviors in leaders of positive change. As change leaders, your board team can be a catalyst for change or can make change difficult. Your board team can be a North Star for action, or it can present icebergs that endanger progress. Governance leadership that is a North Star for action fosters a clarity of purpose that encourages making a leap of change in instructional classroom practice to better meet the needs of children. The leap of change is founded in a moral imperative as expressed by your board. Ensures board policy and consistent practices support those who make the leap of change, positioning your board to understand and not rush to criticize change efforts. Promotes and supports a culture of meaningful collaboration that allows people to learn together and help minimize judgment or criticism of changing instructional practices. Celebrates success at the board table and in conversations in the community. It sends a signal to people across the system that the board values change efforts. Change efforts designed to make significant improvement in student learning often endure pushback from staff or the community. As the governance team, your board can be change leaders from a governance perspective. Your board can be the embodiment of a North Star of leadership that Fullen and Quinn described. Effective change requires focused direction. Quite often, change is viewed as suspect, and any deviation from the status quo can be viewed as dangerous or harmful by the school community. Your board can endorse and support change.
For board discussion, what are some specific actions your board can take to become a North Star for action and support positive change in your district? When you're ready, click to hear thoughts from IASB.
I was excited to hear North Star because that's something we've been talking about in Portrait of a Graduate in the Next 20. Coherence to our vision. So as you can see, there's a lot of parts that are converging at the same time. This coherence piece, the Strat-Op, which is the action planning we're doing, the Next 20, which is the vision, and all these pieces are coming together. The work we've done around the core values and mission and vision, it's been really exciting. So just want to give that 2 cents.
I'll let Jocelyn maybe.
Well, and I think that this is clear going back to what Robin's, I think it was you that said, having the presentations and having staff come in and tell us about the different things that they're doing within their classrooms and their buildings, and the fact that we're supportive of that. We want to hear that.
I think something that's maybe not so much a North Star publicly, but really inside is the collaboration and the culture and climate that we've worked really hard on this year. That we have kind of set a direction that this is how we want to get collectively together and go forward. I think negotiations is a really good example. We started that much earlier this year than we have in prior years, and I think the outcome was very well received within the staff as well as the district, and set us up for some easy layups, to use a basketball term, in the next 2 years as we have to go through contract negotiation. So I think other districts looked at us as a North Star in that particular instance to see how successful we were, what we did to get there, and how they could then follow that and achieve it. Basically, steal our really good idea. So.
As the governance team, if your board team does not consistently and frequently express its belief in the staff and students and in the importance of the moral imperative of all students achieving to high levels, regardless of circumstance, it will lose the potential to be that North Star. Reference agenda items to your vision, mission, and learning goals. Read the mission aloud at every meeting. When making decisions, your board can say things like, we must make this change or pay for this program, or provide for this kind of learning environment because, and refer to your mission or ambitious learning goals. Help establish a culture of innovation. Invite staff to the board table to share progress on instructional improvement efforts. Celebrate successes along the way. The board must establish a safe environment and support the work of the early instructional. Stay the course. Change leadership means supporting change efforts during times of staff or community pushback. Be thoughtful about the impact of your reactions. Be proactive to support change. Create 2 or 3 board messages about your district's change initiative and share them with the public. As a liaison to the community, your board's messages can make tremendous positive impact.
Now is time to apply your learning. Let's first think about 2 statements and consider whether they are true or false. Here is the first statement. People are best motivated by extrinsic rewards and sanctions. What do you think? Is this true or false? Why or why not? Have each team member share their selection along with rationales of their choice. As a team, make your selection and then choose true or false.
False. Extrinsic rewards and sanctions.
What's that?
I would say it's false.
False is correct. Fullen and Quinn point to research which indicates that people are motivated primarily by intrinsic factors, having a sense of purpose, solving difficult problems, and working with peers on issues that are of critical importance to the group. That is why the establishment of shared common purpose is so important. For students motivated, they need and believe in the true purpose of what they are trying to achieve.
Here is the second statement to discuss. Effective leaders foster moral purpose and they build relationships, even with those who are skeptical, cynical, or disagree. Do you believe this can be done? What do you think? Is this true or false? Why or why not? Please remember to share your thinking when discussing this answer.
Well, we all get along with Scott, so I guess it's true.
Thanks for throwing me under the bus.
I know you can handle it too.
Not a problem.
You get back up my stuff.
True.
Of course.
True.
True is correct. Fullen points out that it is important to listen and demonstrate respect for the opinions of others, listening and understanding their perspective without agreeing. It is also important to create conditions where they can see success of efforts and the importance of a shared purpose. This is very important to keep in mind whether people approach you as individual board members or as an entire team.
Let's consider a brief scenario that could happen in any school district. A scenario that involves 2 hardworking, caring board members. In this situation, the board president plans to review the existing district vision as a tool to help engage the board in the first driver, focusing direction. Board member Sam Satisfied approaches board president Fawn Forward to tell her he won't be present at next Saturday's workshop.
Fawn, I know you want all of us there for this visioning workshop, but I think that's a waste of time. First of all, we are the best district in our conference, and second of all, that visioning stuff is the material dreams are made of. That has very little to do with what can actually happen in our district with our budget and our students.
Here are 2 questions to consider regarding this scenario. Number 1, what would you say to Sam if you were Fawn? What difference does visioning make? Number 2, how could the board really use a discussion of vision for improvement? Share your rationale for your thinking. Then when you're ready, click on Thoughts from IESB.
Obviously, this is a very relevant scenario. It's exactly what we're going through right now. And I see Robin with a clipboard all the time. I thought that was really a funny picture. I've never seen a board president holding a clipboard, but so thoughts?
Visioning just helps everyone understand where your goals and objectives are and how you're going to get it there, and gives them confidence in that you're really looking to accomplish something and that you're all on the same page, I guess.
Right, it gives a direction.
Discussing vision can also bring, I feel, and maybe this is just for me, but clarity to even where you are at present time. It helps you understand where you need to go next, so you can focus on what you're having to do now and maybe even change how you're doing now so that your vision is obtained.
I'm not sure what area the board member thinks that they're the best district in the conference, but if you are at the top of whatever in your conference, other people will start catching up to you and move past you in areas of education and relevance to children and whatever measures we want to use to determine you're at the top of your conference. So if you don't continue the vision and continue working to make yourself better, other people will surpass you.
Visioning always has positives to it also.
Yeah.
So you're always going to have a positive outlook. It helps shut off some of those negativities.
What might Fawn say to Sam, who says visioning is a waste of time? First, Fawn could talk to Sam about how important his contribution is to this discussion. It is important to have the whole board commit to the vision. The board needs to be sure that they can all agree on this core document. This is the one thing they must have full participation in and agreement upon to be an effective team. Fawn can agree they have a great district, but that the board has a moral imperative to discuss, providing equal opportunity for all children, regardless of circumstance. The board needs to unite around that common purpose, to paint a picture of that which they can all agree. Secondly, Sam is wondering how the board can use its discussion of vision for improving the future for district students. Is it just the stuff dreams are made of? The vision helps clarify what the district wants for children. It helps explain board actions. That bond issue is not just to have a nice new building, it is to provide the best possible learning environment for students. The discussion of the board vision is extremely helpful and can unite the board around important concepts, such as what kinds of learning students need to experience and how well district goals align to the vision. The discussion provides opportunity for unified communication with the public. It can be the groundwork for identifying items on the meeting agenda or for creation of shared board messages to the public. Let's think about what your discussion of the first driver, focusing direction, might mean for your board. As a governance team, establishing a clear, focused direction on a shared purpose is vital. Uniting your board to believe and commit to the promise of public education for all children, your board can review your mission and vision. Do your existing statements powerfully establish the purpose of your district and what it must provide in the future? Define the moral imperative. It is essential for your district to provide equal opportunity for all children, regardless of circumstance. If your board truly believes this is the case, talk about what kinds of support and work that will mean for your board. Work with staff leadership and set 2 or 3 ambitious goals and pursue them relentlessly. Believe more is possible, and as a governance team, stay the course. Consider what's at stake if this important work does not happen.
Thank you.
So,
You should have logged your points.
yes, you have to log, and if you haven't done that at all throughout this year, if you can take the time to go on to the ISIB site, and things like being on your committees, you get points for that. If you attended anything with Todd Pritchard or Waylon Brown, those are worth points. Any of those coffees that they had or just presentations that they would have had. And if you look through there, there's webinars. The webinars are online and they can be listened to at any time. And yeah, log your points in. Everybody has points, even though you think you don't, because we all got points for being at convention. So, and you get points for the finances. Plus, we had at the board table. Didn't we already have? We have had one. This is our second one.
This is our second one.
This is our second one.
10 points.
But we have to go in and we do have to log those points in.
When was the first, what was the first at the board table? I can't remember.
It was human resources back in, oh gosh, like November.
Okay.
And Harry gave us permission to kind of do our own because we had, you guys are on the ball. You'd already done all the at the board tables and he hadn't made any new ones yet. So he gave us permission to kind of make up our own that we used based on some ISB question prompts they had. But he said you can absolutely count that.
Okay.
And now they have the new ones out, so we can do these. I think there's 4 total that we have coming, or 3 more.
Okay.
So you could maybe take the time during now and the next meeting to look at that. And if you have any questions or don't maybe see, you can go ahead and do some reporting and get all your things. It does take, is it Emily? A little bit of time. Yeah, Emily. Sometimes you report them and it may take her a couple weeks to get things recorded, but she does get them finally updated and then they'll send you an email with your update. They do not give you a total though, which I told her. I asked for a suggestion that they help board members out. Also, a thing I asked for them to do is to remove last year's points because for some reason they've decided to leave last year, so you have to separate. And the new points started September 30th, right? The end. So anything before September 30th of 2018 is not counted, but anything after that is, to help you track. 85 formal learning points and. Oh, now I lost. I'll get you. I'll send out an email with what the numbers are for you. All right, moving on. Thank you.
Yes.
Moving on to agenda item number 13, financial report for May 2019.
The general fund revenue is what's causing the decline in the cash balance in the general fund, and that's still due to the Title I or the title program reimbursements behind schedule, and Medicaid is still a little bit behind as well, but I think we'll be catching up here in June and accruing whatever is remaining as a receivable. The expenses are close to what I estimated, although if you look at the one line item, utilities are higher than the estimate. And in the utilities budget, there hasn't been an allocation for the North Grand building because all along we've been, intending to sell it. So as soon as we sell the building, the general fund utility expense should decrease. This year still, above my estimate, but hopefully next year will be right on target. when you lease space for like the North Grand building, that can be paid for out of the management fund, so we'll be good there.
And might I add, we would be paying for quite a bit less because of the space we actually use.
Right.
So that's a win-win either way. We decrease the utilities and we can move to a different fund, and we'll be paying less utilities because we're just going to pay for the space we're using.
The only other comment, it has to do more with the consent agenda. Next year, our plan is to subscribe to IASB again, but let the ISFIS membership expire. We haven't used it as much as really what you should, and so we'll just let that expire.
Thank you.
Motion to accept the May 2019 financial reports as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the May 2019 financial reports as presented. Any other additional discussion or questions? Just wanted to say thank you, Terry, for taking the time to, like with the ISFIS, for watching out in areas that we don't need those extras and going ahead and cutting them. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 14, consideration of consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda items is listed below.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any other additional discussion? Questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Correspondence and miscellaneous. There is just to talk about points, there is a financial offering by ISIB convention seminar, July 17th. If anyone's interested, get a hold of me and we'll get you registered for that. It'd be an all-day trip down to Prairie Meadows.
What day is that, Rob?
July 17th.
Also note, we will have 2 July board meetings. We don't anticipate they'll be real long, but with construction projects going on, we have to keep them going so we can get all the contracts approved.
We're pretty used to that. And maybe we can see the important upcoming dates are June 24th, the board meeting, July 8th. We have the board meeting. There's a few other things that are going on in between there. Just watch your emails and for your weekly updates for those. I know there's a Vision 20 meeting in there. And with that, I'm going to adjourn.